Could we please have Lucy to the front of the room?
Welcome to the Rarely Group Open Meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Lucy and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Lucy.
Please help me open this meeting with a moment of silence followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is Alcoholics Anonymous Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I'm glad you're all here tonight. And I have asked Court to read how it works.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Court, and I am an alcoholic. How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. These chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they do have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose it in a general way that we used to be like that, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided what we want and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take these certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it's too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took in which suggested of a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn over our will and our lives over to a God as we understood him. 4, made a searchous and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all the persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and power to carry that on. 12, having a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to all alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us explain what in order. I can't go through with it. Do not be discouraged. Nothing has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter of the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we are alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. C, that God would be beside. Thank you.
Thank you, Court. And Rick will come and read the 12 traditions.
I'm Rick, and I'm an alcoholic. The 12 traditions of AA. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there's but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, AA has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Thank you, Rick. And here at Rarely we give out chips for various lengths of sobriety, and Sarah's going to come up and give out our sobriety chips.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm an alcoholic. All right. Do we have anyone with 24 hours up to 29 days? All right. 30 days? 60 days? All right. All right. How about 90 days? 6 months? 9 months? 1 year? Multiple years? All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sarah. May we please have the Secretary's announcement?
Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Bennett. I'm an alcoholic. I've said I'm an alcoholic. Are there any other alcoholics present? Wow, that's a bunch of them. Good-looking alcoholics, too, except a couple of you, but I'm not going to point you out. Now, out of respect for our speaker, please turn off your phones during the meeting, and try, if you can, to imagine how you would feel if you were up here giving a talk. So please be respectful. Is there anybody here with less than 30 days of sobriety? If so, please stand up and introduce yourself so we can get to know you. Less than 30 days. Garrett? Connor? Sarah. Welcome, guys. Do we have any out-of-town visitors who are not in treatment here that would like to introduce themselves? All right, we observe the seventh tradition, which states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting. Oh, that didn't get caught. I almost hit you in the hands with it. That was the problem, right? One of you guys pass that basket, would you? Thank you. Every AA group ought to be self-supporting, declining outside contributions. $1 does not go as far as it used to, so please give 2 or more if you can afford it. If you cannot, you are welcome to attend this meeting. This money pays for rent, chips, coffee, and literature, so please support if you can. Are there any AA announcements? At this meeting, we recognize people who are willing to be a sponsor. Would all of those who are willing to sponsor, please raise your hand? A lot of them. Great job. The Rarely Group is a home group, and we meet on the last Wednesday of the month after the normal meeting. All are welcome to join. We also tape the speaker, and you can see our recording technician at the back of the room for information on tonight's speaker. Thank you all for letting me be your secretary, and I really hope to see you next week. Thank you.
Okay, you're in for a treat tonight. Yeah, you guys are here and you're sober. That's a miracle. But I would like to introduce tonight's speaker. I don't see where it says anything. So I'm going to introduce tonight's speaker, Mike.
Hi, everybody. My name's Mike, and I'm an alcoholic. And welcome to the new people. And if you're in first year, welcome also. I can tell you that when I was new, you weren't getting me to the podium. And a matter of fact, I was so self-conscious, I probably didn't hardly share my first year. I did a little bit, but not a lot. But just trust me, sharing is important. Thanks for inviting me to share, Mike. I'm not a circuit speaker, not a chance in hell, and I have spoken some in my sobriety from the podium, but not a lot. So if you're bored, you can leave. It's not a problem. And if you don't hear something or you don't relate, don't keep coming and keep trying. And I'll promise you, you'll find somebody that you will relate to if you just keep coming back. I started drinking at a young age. And the best way I can describe it, I've heard speakers get up and talk about how lovely their family was, how wonderful and loving their family was. And I'm thinking, after being here for a while, that's an aberration, because my family was anything but that. And I can tell you, my parents got divorced about when I was 12 or 13. And the best I could describe it was I was just emotionally numb. And I remember being in, 13, you're in middle school, and they have these drug weeks that say drugs are bad, don't do drugs, And then I remember doing drugs, and I go, they lied. This is really good. And, and it was because I was numb and didn't feel anything, and then I start drinking and doing drugs, and it was like, oh, this is good. I feel good. And so that was my story. And before that all happened, I played a lot of sports, and I was kind of gregarious and outgoing. But as soon as I started drinking and doing drugs, and then being gregarious and outgoing, I got in some trouble in school. But as soon as I started drinking and doing the outside issues, I just went introverted, and I just shut up and nobody knew who I was. And except for my friends. I just was quiet in class and no more trouble. And so, and I can tell you that it was fun. I had a good time. And got to high school, really the drinking started kicking in high school. And I lived in a neighborhood where there was probably 10 of us in a 4-block area, and we were all baby boomers. And we were all doing the same thing. And it was fun. I was drinking. I really started drinking. I think when I was younger, my body wouldn't metabolize alcohol as well, so the drugs were a little bit easier. But then when I got to high school, I really started drinking, and it was easy to get a hold of. I was in Oklahoma. You only had to be 18 to get it, and by the time I was 16 years old, I was probably 6'3", 6'4", and it was really easy. And I started going in bars at probably 17, and it was really easy to get your hands on it. It wasn't hard. It's different today, I think, but I remember when I graduated. I didn't graduate. It was the end of my sophomore year in high school. Drunk. It was raining. First time I ever You can't hear me, huh? First time, raining, drunk. First time I ever drank a 12-pack of beer, and that was a big deal. And God, we had a lot of fun, and it was easier. Oklahoma's similar to here, and it was easier. A lot of times, you know, they load up a truck with kegs and ice, and we'd go out in the country and drink, and it was really fun. It was, I've probably said fun 3 times, but you know, I got started getting in some trouble with the law in there my senior year in high school, and you know, I'll never forget, we graduated, and you know, and it'd been hard on my mom. You know, my mom was a single parent. She'd get remarried, but he left, and it was hard on my mom. And so I graduated high school, and my present from high school, my graduation present was 2 suitcases, and it was like hint, hint. And as soon as I didn't come home on time, and that was a big problem for my mom when I didn't come home on curfew, I was gone, I was out. And then so my dad takes me in. And then I get a DUI and a possession of marijuana, and then I was out of there. And this all happened in about 2 weeks. And so I remember that summer I spent roofing houses and drinking, and I was sharing an apartment with 3 other girls. They were my sister and 2 of her friends, or maybe it's just 1, I don't know. But it was fun. It was a great summer. And then so what happened was, the end of the summer came, school was starting, and Mom was having a fit that none of her kids were going to school that year, you know. So she comes and drags me out of there, and I'd actually been accepted to a university. I'd been accepted to the University of Oklahoma, but my dad said he wasn't paying for it since I'd been arrested. I says, okay, fine. So my mom says, you're going? I says, well, he said he's not going. He goes, trust me, I've got that taken care of. You're going. She picks me up and drops me off in Norman, Oklahoma. And boy, that was a party too, even though I remember being broke most of the time. And after 2 semesters, I got out of there with a 13 units and a 1.0 GPA, and that was pretty poor, let me tell you. And so I went to work as an apprentice as a cement mason, and working hard, drinking hard, making good money too. And my alcoholism took off. I mean, it really took off then. And I was drinking almost every day then. And God, I'd do the same thing every day. Go out, stay out late till who knows what time, and then get up at 6 and be on the job at 7 and work my ass off. And I'd feel like crap and eat some lunch, and I'd start feeling better. I says, I'm not going out tonight, and then I'd go out again. And you know, it was, whoa, that was some tough living. And my alcoholism just took off. And then I got in some real trouble with the law, and nobody bailed me out of jail, and I was stuck there. And some things happened there, and my alcoholism went here, and then it backed down. And you know, I cleaned up my act for a while. I cleaned it up for about 4 years, enough to go through college, and you know, the best I could say was it just started, and then my drinking, it was almost like my drinking progressed twice, you know, because I backed down off that curve and then went to school, and I started drinking and hanging out with the guys I grew up with again, and we started drinking more, and eventually, you know, after 4 years, it just went back up, and I was back to drinking like I was, and I'm supposed to be graduating from college, and I wasn't that far away. And so I don't know if you guys know, when you're supposed to be going to college, you know, when you get done, your life's about to take off, you know. Well, that wasn't the case for me. My life was going like this, you know, and I was almost out on the streets, and I've been through jobs and burned through relationships, and my family didn't want to have much to do with me, and I can give you an example of how many jobs I went through. From the time I was 16 to the time I was 24, I'd had over 40 jobs. And as a result, I have no problem with personal interviews or business. I'd been through so many of them. You think if you had to go between 2 and 5 interviews and 40, that's almost 200 interviews, you know? So it's like you go, oh, geez. So anyway, you know, it's like, so this is what happened. You know, I'm drinking. We got got an apartment with a childhood friend, and it's starting to. There was a lot of feelings in here that hadn't been dealt with. That's basically what happened, and they came popping up. And when I'm drinking, one of the things I liked about drinking, I heard the other day in the meeting was, God, when I drank, I didn't care anymore. Boom, it was out the window. Now that changed the next day, but I loved that feeling, and it was instant happiness for me. Once I drank, boom, it was fun, let's go. And so these feelings are popping up, and I'm having to deal with them, and they're painful. A lot of it had to do with my parents' divorce, and they're popping up, and I'm realizing that I can't drink. Drink's causing me, alcohol's causing me a lot of these problems, so I think. And so I think if I can just quit drinking, then maybe a lot of stuff will straighten out. And, so I quit drinking, and I lasted 3 days. And my roommate, who I've been partying with since I was 13 years old, comes home with a 12-pack of beer and some buds, and I'm right back at it. And it becomes obvious that I can't stop drinking on my own. It's just not going to happen. And so I checked into a detox center. They had commercials on TV, people jumping out of airplanes or balloons, whatever it was. And it was called the Referral Center. This is in Oklahoma City. And so I gave them a phone call, and they interviewed me over the phone. Sounds like you got alcoholism with some drug use mixed in too. And so I went down there and checked in, and I can tell you I got there, and a couple things happened. The first thing that happened was I felt safe. And the other thing that happened, it was over. I just felt like it was over. And they asked me, well, and then after being there for a couple of days, I didn't really think I had that big of a problem, to be honest with you. But what happened after a couple of days was I was going through withdrawals, alcoholic and drug addicted withdrawals. And I just felt bad. All I wanted to do was sleep. And that was a little bit of a awakening on, what was going on with me and my alcohol use, that go through addiction and or go through withdrawals. And then they said something that was really interesting. They said, can you stay sober for 24 hours? Can you stay sober for today? And I says, yeah, sure, that's easy. So you say, but yeah, so we just stay sober for 24 hours a day. And the other thing that happened was, I'll never forget, was we're in a little group session of about 10 people and a counselor in there, and they're going around the room saying alcoholic. Everybody's saying they're an alcoholic, and I'm going, oh, geez. I did not want to admit I was an alcoholic, not a chance. And I said it, but I remember going to a speaker meeting at a hospital 2 or 3 nights into it, and they had all the newcomers stand up, and I didn't identify as an alcoholic. I just said my name was Mike, and they were not happy about that. They wanted to hear it. It was like, well, some of you guys didn't even say you're an alcoholic. I'm still figuring it out, but I think what happened for me was I didn't want to drink anymore. And so when I got out of there, I got out 7 days, I was in there, they pointed me to a AA clubhouse like this. It was a little bigger. They had a couple extra rooms, but they says, here's a place for you to consider going, and we recommend 90 meetings in 90 days. And I go, wow, okay. And so I started going, and the second meeting, they had birthdays. It was a speaker meeting. They had birthdays. They did it backwards there. They had the speaker, and then they did the birthdays at the end of the meeting, and then they did the longest first and the least last, and basically they had, I don't even know, a couple guys in their 30s, sober-wise, and I'm looking, what? I mean, what is this? But actually what happened was, at the end, they had 3 people take 1 year. And, they had some really good things to say. They were an attraction for me. And so as a result, you know, I wanted what they had. I just did. So when they did that, and that was about, I don't know how long I'd been out of there. Maybe that was the first day. I know it was a Tuesday when I got out of there, and I think that was a Tuesday night meeting. It might have been Thursday, I don't know. But that was the beginning. And I started going to meetings, and I got involved. And eventually I got a sponsor, and that was a wild deal. And I don't know if I should tell that story or not, but this guy, I hadn't been touched in years, you know. The only time I'd been touched was drunk out of a bar on a one-night stand. That was the only time I'd been touched. And so this one guy's coming over and giving me hugs, and he's just a little too friendly, you know. And it's like, what the hell is this? So he got me. I was a driver then. I drove. That was my first really career. I was a professional driver, and so he got me a job, just a one-day deal, driving a truck from Oklahoma City to Tulsa. It was full of furniture. And we went and had Mexican food, and finally I says, you know what, you and your gay friends need to stay away from me. That's what I told him. So then we get in this truck. My mouth's open right now. And we get in this truck, and it's loud. And so I hear this guy's, it's an hour and a half drive, and I hear this guy's story and about what happened to him and where he was. And I don't remember how much time he had. He might have had 4 years or something. But at the end of that drive when we got up there, it was like, you know, I understood him, and he did have something, and you know, and I trusted him after that too. I just got him, and he ended up sponsoring me, and we ended up working the first 5 steps together, and that was interesting. And I can tell you that when I did the first step, I listed where I was powerless over alcohol, and then I listed where I was manageable, and then I made a list on both sides. And you know what? When I did that, that helped me. It helped me see my alcoholism, you know, and the problems that it caused with the law and relationships, and how I couldn't stop drinking once I picked up that first drink. And it was kind of an eye-opener. And then the second thing that happened was we did the third step. I don't remember how we did it, but I remember doing the third step prayer with him on Christmas Eve. And you know what? I made it through New Year's. So my sobriety date's October, and we made it through the New Year without drinking. And I wanted to drink every day. I still had the obsession to drink. Even though I was going to meetings, I was getting involved in Alcoholics Anonymous, I still wanted to drink. And about January 2nd, what was that, 8 days after we did the prayer, the obsession was removed, and it hasn't returned, and that was a really big deal. And you know, I did the fourth and fifth step with him, and it was in March of that year, and I did the best I could, and that's all you can do. And I felt better after I did the fifth step, but there's a reason why I'm going to say this, because I'm going to go into it later, is that most of that fourth step was on Mom, and I had a gigantic resentment against my mom. It was just huge. So most of it is. And when I got done with that, he goes, well, this is what I'd say about you. You're definitely an alcoholic, because nobody could have that deep-seated resentments and not be an alcoholic. You know, it's like, holy cow. So what happened to me was, I was there in Oklahoma. I was close to graduating college, and I got an opportunity of a job offer. It wasn't a very good job offer, but it was a job. And so I took off to California and got there, and what a deal that turned out to be, and I had no idea. And I guess the best way you can describe it is this higher power knew better than what I did on what I needed. Because I get out there, and what it was AA was huge. And there was a lot of baby boomers like myself that had partied all through the 70s and burned out in the middle of the 80s, and now they were sober, and we were out there and going to these big meetings. And the other thing that was really big, I was a sports guy, and they played softball, sober softball, and I started doing that. And that got me a group of friends. I was out there a year and a half, and 3 of us got a condo together, and it was just, and that was a great deal till the 2 guys started sleeping with the same girl, and then that deal broke up, and it's like, holy cow. Just because we're sober doesn't mean we're well, you know? It's like, so, you know, that deal broke up. But, you know, I got out there and things started changing, but it wasn't right away. And I can tell you right now that I had a lot of alcohol and I had a lot of drug use, and this brain wasn't working very well. You know, the first 2 or 3 years, it wasn't functioning on all 8 cylinders. It was maybe functioning on 3 or 4, and it didn't clear up till I got about 3 years sober, and I just worked some jobs, whatever, and then I went into I went back to school, 1 class a night for 4 semesters to finish up school, and that was an amends to my dad for him taking care of my college, and that was a big deal, you know. And I got there and started working. I started in a career, and basically I was there. It was a really big deal. I talked about 40 jobs from 16 to 24. So it was a really big deal, and I'd never worked at a place for 1 year, and ever. I'd never kept a job for 1 year. And I ended up, when I got into my career, I ended up working at that company for 5 years. And then there was a recession that came along, and that company went into bankruptcy. And so from there, it's really interesting. I went to work for another company for a short time, and then I had two guys I knew from the previous company. We started a company, and I was in that deal for 11 years. And it was all Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, because I stayed sober, I kept coming and doing this deal, and it built on itself. But like what I could tell you guys, it's like, oh, you're going to be here for a year, and then it's all going to be rosy. It wasn't like that. I remember being a year and a half, 2 years sober, complaining to my sponsor that my life sucked and I wasn't happy. And basically what he told me, he goes, well, how long did you dig that hole, Mike? And I go, well, probably 12, 13 years, somewhere in there. And he goes, well, you think you're going to fill that hole back up in a year and a half? And I go, no. And so, you know, you got to have a realization, if you've been out there freaking, you know, doing whatever for the last 10 years, you're not going to come in here. Maybe some of you will, but it's just a process. It's building on top of each other. And a lot, there's days it just, oh, geez. But I get up, I go home at night, I get something to eat, I go to a meeting, and you know what? Get through it, get to the other side, and it'd be okay. You know, I just came off going through this. I did this meeting, and it was on Sunday mornings, and we read Drop the Rock, and it was on step 6 and 7. And it was really a cool meeting, and I got to know the people, and that was my home group for like 2 or 3 years. But the thing was, you know, step 6 and 7 are sandwiched between step 5 and 8. And a lot of people just skim over it, I think. But the biggest defect of character that came out of this was that my emotions and my anger are my biggest character defects, without question. You know, and it causes me more problems. So coping with that is a really big deal. And you think, they talk about in Alcoholics Anonymous that alcoholics have an above average intelligence. But trust me, their decision-making process based on emotion brings them right down, you know, right down. There's just like, you know, so basically here's the deal. Like, this is what I learned was, you know, if I'm upset or there's a problem, it's better for me to vacate the premises, go talk to somebody about it, and then come back and talk about it and try and work through it. And it's a big deal, you know, it's a really big deal. And a lot of the emotional programming I got from my childhood was not good. And so learning to deal with that and learning to deal with those negative emotions is a big deal, guys. And so I would highly recommend, learning some stops. Okay, I got to stop. This isn't working, and then be able to come back and do stuff like that. I want to talk about. I talked about my mom, and she was a very intelligent, very dynamic lady. Had 4 different careers, and was successful, I think, at most of them. We're not talking a little bit of sex. One of them, she was huge. So she was the smartest. She was the matriarch of the family, and she was tough as nails. She didn't need Al-Anon. She didn't need any of it, and that was my resentment against her. And boy, that was tough. But here's what happened. I was in AA, and she got in Al-Anon. And so she started working the steps in Al-Anon. And what happened was she's going through this. It's funny, too, because she's a big Christian. So what happened was she gets to the 3rd step, and she comes to me and goes, Mike, I don't think I can turn my will and my life over to a power greater than myself. And I go, what? You got to be kidding me. All these preaching I've been hearing all these years, and you can't turn it over? She goes, no, I don't think I can. I'm just shaking my head, And I want to talk about that for a second. Because you know what? What I learned after being here is that there is a higher power. He is here. He wants good things for me. He wants good things for you. But it may not seem like it for a while. It's going to take a little time to build up a little trust and a little faith for some of that stuff to start happening, and get a realization that He is working in my life. He is making things happen. It's just not happening the way I want to. It's happening on different time frames and different levels, but it is, And so if you're new and you're trying to grasp this, trust me, that's the best I could describe Him. I don't understand Him. I do know He wants me to do the right thing. There's no question about that. And I feel it. If I'm not doing the right thing, trust me, I feel it then, or I can feel it the next day. I'm going, oh, that wasn't right. Boy, I shouldn't have done that. I can just feel it here. It's called developing a conscience, which I didn't have when I got here. So that's a whole different deal too. But this mom, it was funny. We made amends to each other at the same time, and I don't know how long I was sober when we did that. I want to say I was probably 6 years sober or something like that. But it didn't take. It just didn't take. I don't know. There was still something there. Yeah, it just didn't. It wasn't there. So I can tell you, I'm probably 7 or 8 years sober, and we're sitting in a Chili's, and my mom's getting ready to go off to be a missionary in the Ukraine, and it's dangerous, and it's a 3rd world country, and it's not a great place. And I remember sitting there, and my sisters are there, and they're a little drunk. And my one sister's slurring her words, and it was kind of aggravating me. And so I look at her and go, how much have you had to drink tonight? And man, she almost exploded into tears. They get up from the table, and what was really going on, that was my higher power, removing them from the situation. And my mom and I had a conversation. And that conversation was, I remember looking at her and go, Mom, I just want you to know, I forgive you for all that's gone on. I forgive you. And she said, really? And I go, yeah. And she goes, oh, that's so great. And that changed our relationship. It just changed it. And so from then on, we had really good relationship from there. And we were able to share. And it's interesting, too, about my family. My mom and I are kind of on a spiritual path. And I got 2 sisters and a dad that are secular and still partying and drinking. And, man, it's hard dealing with them. Oh, my God. And they're getting worse. Because, they're clouded because of the alcohol and drugs. And so it's just a hard deal. But I can tell you my mom and I are very similar, too. Maybe that's why we got along so good, because we're both entrepreneurs. We're sports-oriented. Our politics are the same. And we were just easy. We could talk about a lot of different things. And we spent a lot of time together, too. Not a lot, but when we did, she lived on a little... It just had this little tiny golf course on it. It was a 9-hole executive course. And we could walk from her house over there, and over a 20-year period, I don't even know how many times I played that course with her. And it was great. It was a great bonding thing for her. And I could tell you what she's... I remember I don't know how many years, it's probably 10 years ago, she hands me this vanilla envelope and says, this is my trust, and you're it. And that's all she told me. I go, okay. She goes, put this in a safe place. It has instructions. Go from there. And I go, okay. So, I mean, I looked in and saw it, but had no idea what was going on and how difficult that would be. So basically what happened is she ended up she has dementia today, and I'm actually her trustee to the trust and take care of all her stuff. And I'm just trying to follow her directions, and which is that's really good, and it's all spelled out. The hard part is I got two sisters that are drunks that are just, it's like this. It's been the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with, was those two siblings. And so in one sense, it was quite the compliment that she trusts me with this. The second thing is like, having to deal with those guys. But, you know, it just is what it is. And, you know, I'll tell you something. My mom says, she's almost gone. And I said this in the meeting the other day, and I just love this. The last really coherent conversation she had with me was, she goes, Mike, you're stubborn. And I go, well, so are you. And then I go, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, does it? And she goes, we need to move that tree, you know, and that's what she said. She's dynamic, smart, and she's just as stubborn as me, but she didn't have a problem with alcohol. She could sit down and drink a glass of wine, and I think that's what separates us. You know, when I pick up a drink, boom, it's on. I'll tell you a story. I play golf. I play golf all the time, and at this one place, we had every time somebody has a hole in one, everybody gets charged $3 in the whole club. And so this guy got a hole in one. So we're all and I have a regular group that I'm playing with, and somebody gets a hole in one, and so everybody gets a free drink. So these guys get Cadillac margaritas. And then I says, well, you want mine? And they said, sure. So I give them, they get each, so they each had a 1.5 Cadillac margaritas. And so later they go, geez, Mike, we got so drunk, we almost had to call our wives to come pick us up. And it was like, holy cow. And I go, I didn't say that, I'm thinking this, I didn't say this. I go, well, shit, I'm impressed you guys went home to your wives, because I would have never gone home to my wife. I would have been gone, you know, until 2 or 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was. That's me. That's how I drink. I'm an alcoholic. I have alcoholism. And once I pick up that first drink, I'm off and running. And that's just the way it is. And, you know, so basically, as long as I don't pick up that first drink, I don't get drunk, and I don't take off. That's the foundation of the deal. You know, that's the beginning. That's the beginning. And I can tell you another thing about that, too, is like when I got a year of sobriety, my sponsor came up to me and said, he goes, you know, Mike, you don't have drinking problem, you have living problems. No more, you know, 1 year, boom, you got living problems today. And it's interesting, too, because that same sponsor showed up in California, I don't know, 7 or 8 years later. He's staying with me, and I'd missed him. He's gone, and I missed him. And, you know, I had these feelings of love for him, and I'm thinking, oh, shit, I'm gay. That's what I'm thinking. So, but, you know, I haven't heard from him in years, but I remember that's a funny deal. So there's some things that have happened through the years, and the steps have been a part of it. And 11, I have a couple stories. Now, I played a lot of sports. So before I got sober, I played a ton of sports. Then I drank. I didn't play any. Then I got sober, and I started playing softball, and we played some big stuff. And then when I got to a certain age, I says, I'm not playing this anymore. I'm going to save what I got. So I started playing golf. And then what happened was, because there was some of the competitive stuff that I'd learned in softball carried over to golf. So I became competitive in golf, playing in some certain things, and this story I'm about to tell happened over about a 7-year period, and so I'm playing golf at a particular place that I'm a member of, and we go play team play and we go play other clubs, and so I'll never forget this. I'm playing at this club. We're at this other place, and I'm watching this one guy, and he's a big guy. And he's loud. I mean, he's loud on the first tee. And everybody's standing around watching, you know. And I remember looking down at the ground, and he had 2 tequila sunrises on the ground, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. And this guy's taking them with him. And so I watched this guy through the years, and then I think at the time he might have been better. He was in some groups ahead of me, but then our handicaps are about the same. So I'm playing in a group with this guy, and we're playing his course, and I'll never forget, you know, I knew what he was, you know, because I've been around alcoholics all my whole life. And so he was loud, and he had a lip wedge. He talked a lot, you know, and it was like, oh, jeez. And but we had fun. It was fine. So and it was a close match too. It was a really close match. And I remember I telling my partner from my club, I go, I'll tell you what's going to happen with these guys. If we stay close, they'll implode on the 18th hole. That's what I said. And sure enough, it was tied going in, or maybe I might have been one up, but it was tied going in the 18th hole, and that's exactly what happened. These guys imploded. One guy hit it in the water, the other guy hit it in a trap, and then hit it out of bounds. I won my match with a double bogey, you know, and these guys are pissed. And so this is what I heard. So we're about halfway through, the group's coming in, and they have a drink truck, and these guys got drinks. I drink a cherry Coke, and I hear that Mike, he's such a sandbagger. After he was the one that imploded on the 18th hole and lost the match, and I'm the sandbagger, and I didn't take offense. I lashed out and said, "Fuck you, Bob." That's exactly what I said to him, you know. And there's guys standing around, and it was very inappropriate for me to say what I said. But I knew who I was talking to too. Nobody had a problem with it. So guess what? The next week we're at my course, and I wasn't playing Bob. My partner was. And the next week I'm playing Bob. And I'll never forget. So I got the sponsor, and he's teaching me about some meditation. And he goes, so he goes through this whole process, close your eyes and breathe in, and say, please reveal yourself to me, and then you just be calm and just see what happens. So I'm playing Bob, and I'll never forget this. We're on the 5th hole, and Bob's got no game. I mean, none, except his lip wedge talking. And I remember, and we've been on the course for about an hour. I'm in the middle of the fairway, and he's behind these gigantic eucalyptus trees, and he's just talking, and I'm ready to let light into him. I am flat out ready to let him have it. I've had enough, and I'm not listening to him anymore. So I do what my sponsor says. So I go through the whole routine, close my eyes, breathe, please reveal yourself to me. And as I did that, and we're waiting to hit the ball because there's people on the green. And basically what happened was I get this message, be nice to Bob. And I didn't generate that. I did not generate that. Trust me, I'm ready to kick his ass. But it's like, so we just followed direction, and we were nice to Bob. And you know what? We had a great day. It was the easiest match I ever played. I closed him out, I think, on 13. But this is the interesting thing, was we played Bob's club 2 years later. And we're in the playoffs. Both teams had won their little thing or whatever, and so we're playing. And I'm on the practice green of my club practicing, and I can hear Bob coming. I know it's him. I don't even have to look up. And so he walks by, and he didn't say anything. He didn't say hello, didn't say anything. So as he got by, he looks I go, hey, is that my buddy Bob? He turns around, looks at me, walks up, and gives me a hug. Now, this is the guy I told off, and I was ready to kick his ass, and that's what happened. And that was just, it's unbelievable. And we played him a couple more. I remember the next time we played his place, he didn't play, but he came over and had dinner. And so we sat right next to each other and had a nice dinner. And so, that's just the gifts of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have another story. Gosh, I don't know if I should tell that either, but it's like, freaking, okay, I'm going to tell it, but whatever. Because I don't want to be egotistic. Okay, so I'm playing the President's Cup, and I'm playing a billionaire. I'm not kidding you. I'm playing a billionaire. He was the sixth richest guy in Orange County, and top 100 in the world. And I can tell you that, and I can't remember if I gave him a stroke or if I gave him or if he gave me a stroke. But I'm one up going in the 18th hole, and he gets up and down for the par. I didn't. So now we're tied, and we go to extra holes. And I'll never forget two things about this match that will stay with me forever. So we go to extra holes, and the first hole is a big par 5, and I slice the ball into the woods, okay? Now, it's not that big of a deal, but I had to take it up over some palm trees and whatever. And I remember I'm standing underneath this tree, getting ready to hit this ball, and I hear this voice inside going, loosen up your hands. Just loosen up your hands. And so I go, and I take this shot, and I hit it up over the trees, back into the fairway, got on the green, and parred it, and he bogeyed, and I won the match. But the real deal about that whole thing is, because that's intuitively know how to handle situations with use of alpha lists. But the real thing about that is because I was sober, I was in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was doing the right thing, I wasn't intimidated by this guy. Because this guy, he had a reputation. People knew him. Not that it was a bad reputation. It's just you know a guy when he's got that much money. And so just playing him and feeling like I belonged, and feeling like it was okay, was a really big deal for me. And what's interesting about that, too, is that guy, every time he saw me after that, he always said hello. He always said, hey, Mike, how you doing? I'm doing good. How are you? And that was just really, really nice. And it is as a result of Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to say something about if you guys are new or in your first year. And I didn't realize, what I'm about to say, I didn't realize for a long time. And it took me a long time to kind of figure this out. I had no idea. I was a mess. I needed to get sober. And I didn't want to drink anymore. So I came here. And it was a process of getting better. And it was a process of practicing these principles, working with a sponsor, doing these steps. And I got better, and then my life got better. And basically what happens is when you work the 12 steps, it changes here, and then the outside world changes. That's how it works. You're not going to go out here, if you're new, you're not going to go out there and work on that outside world. It's just not going to happen. What's going to happen is this is going to change, and then the outside world changes. And that's just how it works. And so what I want to say is I remember taking a birthday, and I was probably, I don't even know, I was 25 years sober. And I remember it was a big meeting, and it was a speaker meeting. And I remember being at the podium, and I go, gosh, I haven't wanted to admit what a big effect Alcoholics Anonymous has had on my life. I just didn't. I had no idea. I did, but it kind of hit me. And what I can tell you is that the greatest opportunity in my life was getting sober and coming to Alcoholics Anonymous. By far none. And you don't even know. You guys are looking at me, yeah, he's fucking crazy. But I'm sorry for my bad language. But, this is the deal. I'm going to tell you. But it's a process. It is a process. It's going to take some time. And it will get better. It may get worse for a little while, but it will get better. And the key is staying sober. This thing doesn't work if you're going in and out that door every 3 months, And I've watched guys go in and out for years, and their life sucks, and it never progressed, So the key is to stay here and stay sober. The last thing I'll say is, I don't like to talk about my sobriety or how long I've been sober, but my sobriety date's October 22nd, 1985. If I can stay sober 8 more days, I'll have 35 years. So that is my deal. It's been a great deal. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Let's give another round of applause there to Mike. Thank you, Mike. That was beautiful. This has been a regular meeting of the Rarely Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. Please stay and help clean up after the meeting if you can. Our speaker will be at the back of the room. Please take a moment to thank him as you exit. And let's all gather around. And after a moment of silence for the sick and suffering, alcoholic inside and outside of the room, we'll close with the Lord's Prayer.